Why is it not recording?
There it is.
Okay,
No,
there it
you're good
goes.
now.
All right.
Meeting
All
is being
right.
recorded. Yay.
Meeting is being recorded. Hey, I just want to let everybody know you're in for some major, major gold. I just met Daniel, had a conversation with him. The guy's an absolute badass when it comes to connecting with people and connection over selling. But selling has a process, selling has a way, and selling's actually a really good thing. And I didn't learn that until I started going around really good salespeople and seeing that it can actually be an enjoyable experience. So Nate has this kind of experience. Daniel has this kind of experience. I'm constantly learning from the masters as I go through me giving people that kind of experience. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Wow. I think you drastically overestimate my skill set, but I appreciate the transition. No, it's great, man. I don't like the term master. I don't. I think it's overused, like guru, master, all that stuff. I'm a forever student. I'm always learning. And ironically enough, even though I'm in sales and I've been doing it a long time, I'm better at training and coaching than I am selling. That's actually where
Mm.
I shine is teaching other people how to be better at just communication, and negotiating on their own behalf and closing deals and qualifying more. So I appreciate the sentiment, but yeah, no, I've definitely been doing this a while.
I
I
love that.
think
I love that.
I think I'll give you some humble pie there too as well, Daniel. I think we did allude a little bit before we hopped on record. You know, you're not just selling and talking and teaching from a book that you read. Like, tell me, go back to the very beginning when you had the sales spark. What moment in your life were you when you're like, I get this, I understand this?
Um, well, for me, it started when I was really little. Like I wanted to be an artist for my entire life, and I still do, and I still do some artwork every once in a while. I used to go to do like literal fine art galleries, and I was all over New York and Tribeca, and I had a decent art career for a very short period of time before COVID kind of destroyed it. But I knew at like 16 when I wanted to be an artist, and I was pursuing that as a career that I knew if I was going to do it on my own, I needed to be able to sell it, right? If I want to make art, I need to be able to sell it. And so that's what got me into sales. And I started humbly doing, retail, selling shoes at like Journeys. And then I got my first big boy job in sales where I was doing traveling sales and I was in a different ballroom in a different state every week. And then, I think the best part of my journey or the most education I got in sales was ironically enough, the grittiest one was doing door to door because it was just so routine. It was so systematic. Like we said the same thing over and over again. We did the same things over and over again. And for me, that's always sales. A lot of people think it's clever closing statements or, it's your attire, it's the way you present yourself. All those things can play a part, but at the end of the day, man, it just comes down to repeating the same process, saying the same thing over and over again, asking the same questions, getting the same answers, and being consistent and having strong indifference to be able to, get people to make purchase decisions. Nobody wants a pushy salesman, right? Used cars salesman, snake oil salesman. Nobody wants that, right? And so that was the hardest thing to learn, I think. But yeah, it was early when I really wanted to get into sales, and not because I loved sales. Ironically enough, it was because I wanted to be an artist, and if I wanted to be successful, I needed to sell my artwork. So that's where it all started, and it's taken on its own form over the last 17 years of my sales career.
That's awesome. I look back at you said you wanted to be an artist and that's what got you into selling. I actually started as a personal trainer and I didn't like selling. Like I wasn't going to do it and because I saw selling in one way and I'm like, "Oh, if that's selling, I'm definitely not doing that." But as I progressed, I realized what selling really could be and what it really was. Could you walk me through like what were the reps that you were getting in and what were the what were some of the roadblocks you might have had while you were getting those reps in?
When you mean reps, you mean like repetition, like working out
Yeah,
reps?
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so
Okay.
I'll clarify that. Yeah, so the reps are putting in the repetitions. I was an
Yeah, yeah,
athlete
yeah.
back in the day.
No, I get it. I get it. No, no. Most salespeople, ironically enough, as I went through all my career in different industries and different companies, like a lot of athletes are salespeople. Like that's what they become if they don't either go pro or they don't make a career out of their athletic ability. A lot of them become salespeople because there's so much overlap. It's performance based. It's the most performance based industry, right? It's all on you. You can train. You can write all of the same kind of disciplines that go into sports goes into sales. And so, um, what was the question again? I was totally spaced on it because I was
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
rep
So
thing.
how many how many how many repetitions would you get in with, like, were there specific questions that you asked consistently that you can remember?
I mean, there's definitely like a formula. There's so many methodologies out there and each methodology has its place. And if you're a good salesperson, you're never just using one, you're using multiple. For me, I didn't even know about methodology. I was just very much a student. I went into every company just like a blank slate, even when I had experience, because I wanted to make sure I fell into the right pattern and the right cadence for that company. I wanted to be successful because I'm a bit of an overachiever myself, and I played a lot of sports back in the day too. Did karate and taekwondo
Nice.
and basketball and football and soccer and baseball, golf, all the stuff, right? So I get it, and there's no question. There's maybe like qualifying like frameworks that I would say, the questions are always about their pain. You're always trying to dig deep to figure out what it is exactly they're struggling with. Because we always pitch on pain, and I've always taught to pitch on pain because it's a natural human instinct to avoid it, right? It's one thing
Mhm.
to chase pleasure, but it's another thing entirely to avoid pain. And we're all hardwired to avoid pain
Mhm.
because we're human and we feel pain and we want to get out of it. And so if you can find the pain that someone's experiencing and you have the solution, it's you don't need a fancy closing statement. They'll throw money at you, but you have to identify that and you
Yeah.
have to qualify it. And so one of the things that I talk a lot about with people who come to me for sales coaching help and like, what do I do? How do I need to close more deals. They all say, I need to close more deals. I need to get better at the closing statement. I need to get better at closing. I'm just like, no, you don't. You need to get better at asking solid questions. And a lot of it just comes back to like, I like Simon Sinek. His approach to it is strategic empathy. I like the way he talks about it.
Mhm.
It's putting yourself in someone else's shoes, being able to understand their perspective well enough that you can ask the right questions to get to their core pain, which most people get surface level and they don't deeper question. They just ask one surface level question, they move on to the next, and that's probably the biggest problem. Is by the time they get to the closing statement, or the closing call or whatever they're doing, and they're going to give them the offer, they're like, why do they always say no? It's like because they don't even want what you're selling because you never figured out what it is they actually wanted or needed, rather. What was their pain? What were they struggling with? And then wrap your offer around that, not just, try to sell the most to the people that have the most money. So it's it's a bit counterintuitive in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. When a person first, like, I'll paint a context around it because I used to do cold calling, and I got much better at it because I started asking permission instead of, like, when I first started, I almost wanted to, like, vomit what it was that I did to them. Like,
Yeah.
I would just let my emotions carry over, and then I started asking permission where I'm like, "Hey, I just want to let you know this is a cold call. Can I get 15 seconds of your time?" Is there anything that you notice when you first connect with someone that really just kind of lowers their guard and just opens them up for a conversation?
Um, there's an old acronym, Fords. I can't even remember what the actual acronym stands for now. Family, occupation, recreation,
Recreation. What is the
uh,
D?
D and then S, something to do with like traveling. I forget what it is. Um,
Okay.
I've been doing this for not remember any because it's just become so ingrained in me. Like I know how to connect with people, and mostly it's just the easiest way to drop anyone's guard is to ask them about themselves. And Chris Voss talks about assuming where they're at. Like, oh man, you sound really down today, even if they're not, right? You just
Yeah.
assume it, and you say it to them not as a question but as a statement. They'll update you, and it's kind of
Mhm.
like assuming the sale. They'll let you know if it's a yes or a no. And in either way, if you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It lowers their guard because you're attentive. It showcases that you care and that you're actually listening and observing them and not just there to try to sell them something or say something slick to get them to, open up so that you can, take their money. Genuine connection with other people, although that's not the main thing you're trying to do, the main thing you're trying to do is to get past all the objections to close a deal. And so it's really just about raising
Mhm.
dopamine and capitalizing on impulse. But ultimately, I simplify it for everyone. It's like, dude, just be a human being. Just be human. It's a human being on the other end of that line. They have problems. They have a family. They have friends. They have hardship. They have heartache. They have headaches. They have all the things that are going on in their life. And if you can relate to them on that level, and especially if you can get someone to laugh, if you can get someone to laugh with you, people will spend money with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. And what I noticed when I first connected with you, I could feel your humanness, and that's the name of the game. And I could also feel that you knew your stuff. Like I knew that you there's a saying, gangster knows gangster, right? And as I was going through my journey as a fighter, yeah, I'm going as a fighter. A good fighter knows a good fighter. They just know a good fighter, and it's not one strategy or one tactic. It's literally putting in the reps, putting in the repetition, staying consistent. And I would have never guessed, and I want to get your thoughts on this because you train so many people. You actually have to train people how to be human again, because we're actually training ourselves not to be human. Like we're training ourselves like the script, or the strategy, the strategy, the strategy. It's like, no, who are you? Who are you?
Yeah, I mean, I get why we do that, and there's always this interplay, like this very tight rope you have to tie to toe. Um, to You have to make it systematic, right? It has to be a repeatable process. Otherwise, all the data that you collect is irrelevant. But you can't forget to use that. It's simply a framework. And that's why I don't do scripts, especially in B2B, because it's just too long of a conversation. There is no script in
Mm-hmm.
B2B, right? Um, it's a
Yeah.
qualifying framework, right? There's questions I need to get answered for
Mm-hmm.
sure, but the through line isn't the data. The through line isn't the collecting of that. The through line isn't the framework. It's not the strategy. It's not the script. It's not the qualifying questions. It's okay, how do I relate to this person in a way that gets me the information I need from them so that I can help them solve their problem? And you'll probably hear me say that a bunch during this conversation. Solving their
Yeah.
problem is the objective. That's what your job is. If you were to define a salesperson, it's problem solver. That's what you do. And the better you get at connecting with people, lowering their guard, and to the point where you can ask them uncomfortable questions. And here's the thing, people are scared to ask other people uncomfortable questions. I mean, obviously, it's uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
if you can almost like make it a single serving friend kind of situation, where like I can lower your guard and let you know I'm not here to sell you anything if it doesn't make sense for you. I'm just another person looking to help people solve problems with their business. That's how I get paid, is by solving your problem. So once they've lowered their guard and you can laugh and have a good time and shoot the breeze, right? Now you can ask them those uncomfortable questions that give you the answers you need to get to the core of their problem to then solve it, right? And that's always in a nutshell, that's my approach with every sales conversation is like, okay, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Let me take an interest in you. Let me get you to lower your guard. Let's talk about you as a person. Let's get to the point, right? Let's be prompt here, but let's have a good time. Let's be human. Now we can discuss the matter at hand. And the faster you can get through that process, I mean, you can do that in the first, 2 to 3 minutes, really, if you're good at it. The rest of the
Mhm.
conversation becomes cake, and people will tell you. I mean, I've had people that I've just met tell me some of the most haunting secrets or, intimate things about their life because they feel like I'm their therapist almost, and they just start telling me everything. And then it's just like, oh man, how do I shut this valve off, bro? Can you stop telling me these intimate details about your life? I'm just here to help you with your business development, man. I don't need to know about your kids. Like oh my God, what happened? Yeah,
I
so
think,
it's rough.
Yeah.
Daniel, it's so refreshing to hear you say that, because being also in the sales industry, like, the robots, or what I call them now, which are just the order takers or the maintenance men who aren't cultivating relationships, aren't building sustainable things. I think if one biggest takeaway is, I've been waiting to have this type of conversation with a guest on here, especially with any of my shows, because a lot of times people are in different positions. Like, let's be honest as well, with the global, growth of AI and how people's jobs are being replaced, sales jobs are going to be replaced in a heartbeat unless you learn how to be a human being. Because the order taker that just goes out and runs through the sell sheet and then takes the order, that guy's job is out of business. And not to mention the fact that what you're talking about is back to the basics. And for years, the sales industry has become robotic and has become scripted, and everybody's in tune on it. And actually, the new differentiator is actually just being a genuine human being in sales.
Oh, snap. Ain't that some craziness? I'll tell you right now, they're not going to be able to replace salespeople with AI. They're not. I mean, the only way they'll be able to do it is it has to get so good that you can't tell the difference between AI and a person. And at that point, I mean, we have bigger problems on our on our hands, man. I'm like
Certain products,
Terminator.
yeah,
It's the
certain
end of the
commodity
world,
products will, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, if you're do they pass the Turing test? Because they seem pretty human. They're expressing themselves. They have emotion. That's crazy. Who gave an AI emotions? That's nuts. But yeah, no, I have been working with AI basically since it's been popular. So like basically for like the past 3 years or so, I've been working with many AI companies in the realm of sales. And I like that term you just used, and we use it all the time, is order taker. And a lot of people, when they come to me, that's what they're looking for. They want me to create a system for them through my tech stacks and my expertise and my agency to make them a glorified order taker, right? They that's what they want. They're like, dude, just solve this problem for me. So I have people walking up to me and I'm just asking them, well, which one of these things do you want? And then I sell it to them. And it's like, you can't do that. It's not going to work,
Yeah.
right? You can't do it that way. First off, AI is not there. It's not even close to there. And I've had some pretty sharp people that I've partnered with over the last 3 years, a couple of them, one out in France, a company called Periodics, and then one back here called Easy Pipeline. And they've been at the cutting edge, and their approach is great. The reasons why they're doing this is great, and their, reasoning behind it is solid, but I'm watching them fail time and time again, and there's a reason why they were reaching out to me and so desperate to work with me. It's because they couldn't convert themselves, and they were getting lead generation for these people, but the leads weren't converting after they get the booked appointments. And so they brought me in to do consulting to help them convert. And it's just like, dude, you're it's like you're going the most roundabout way to get exactly back to where sales starts. It's like all of these tech stacks and
Mhm.
SaaS products and everything. And then ultimately what comes down to is you still need a consultant to come in to help the client get a return on investment on your product. And I was like, there's something wrong with that strategy, because like inherently wrong, because if I need to consult them to convert on the deals that you're bringing them, then they don't need the leads in the first place, really, right? They just need training to know how to go out and organically generate their own, have a conversation, go to a networking event, go to in-person networking events. I was just telling my team this the other day. I was like, dude, a couple months ago, actually, we need to go back to in-person. The difference between
Mhm.
the results I get from digital and virtual sales to in person is night and day. I go to two in person events and I come back with a client or two, right? takes almost no time out of my life. I get to enjoy it because I'm in person. I'm an extrovert. I'm a sales guy, right? I like being in crowds. I like talking to lots of people, and I like because I feed off of that energy versus doing things virtually where I'm staring at a screen all day. Even this, like, this is enjoyable, and I'm having a great time here with you guys. But it's like I'd much rather be doing this in person. I'd have more fun doing it, and it is starting my day off where now I have four more calls today where I'm going to be staring at a screen instead of in person. And there's what I explained to them was this. My team about this is when you're in person, there's more things happening unconsciously that you don't even realize, right? There's so many things, the pheromones, people smell, how tall they are, how much space they take up in the room, their confidence, how do they carry themselves, all these nonverbal cues that we as people naturally do, right? We don't think about it, right? Micro expressions. It's so much easier to cue into those things in person. And the gravitas that I normally bring into a room of people, it can't be felt on a video call. You can't feel my confidence so much when I'm sitting somewhere, who knows how many hundreds of or thousands of miles away from you. And when you're looking at a screen, you're only engaging sight and sound, right? There's no touch, there's no smell, right? There's none of the other senses that we normally use to identify a person, to see if they're truthful, to see if they're trustworthy, see if they're someone that we want to work with. Um, we can't do that on video chat, and also the commitment isn't there because it's like I can do this in my pajamas. You don't even know if I have pants on. You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm in the wrong mindset to have a good conversation and to sell and to do the things that we need to do. So yeah, I really think that in person is the way to go. I think we have to do a hybrid approach. I wouldn't say turn off digital because it's so convenient and there is so much value you can get out of it. For instance, like webinars and master classes and workshops is a lot easier to get a large amount of people to gain value from your knowledge and your expertise by doing a virtual event versus doing in person where maybe only three people can show up because only three people that are interested live near you or live near the event space. Versus here, I could have 1,000 people on a webinar and touch 1,000 people's lives and give them benefit and give them quality education and help them move their business along and provide them that value. And now they're going to look at me like, oh man, this guy knows his stuff and we can work together. So it's a combination, man. It has to be a hybrid approach. Embrace technology and embrace what it can do. Be smart about what you choose, but ultimately, like we can't forget to be people and to connect the real, like in real life. It's invaluable. It's completely necessary for the human species. We're not meant to live looking at boxes on a screen all day.
No, you're speaking my language. I
love that.
just last month rolling average of clocking about 5,000 miles a month now on the in-person meetings. So that's my life and what it is. And I think that you hit the nail on the head too on the micro behaviors. And I think that that's a lot of times where we jump to conclusions and assumptions and in whether it's in sales, in our professional interactions, or just in society in general. The more two-dimensional we keep things, the less we do understand those micro behaviors. And those micro behaviors are the telling sign of that fill in the gaps for our assumptions.
Well, that's why I think millennials and Gen Z get such a bad rap because our generations, the youngest ones, millennials and Gen Z. I'm not even going to include Gen Alpha because they're literal children still. But the younger generations struggle with dealing with life because they've been inundated with this. And I was lucky enough that when I was like 16, I didn't care for social media when it started getting really popular. I don't use it. I haven't. Even as a teenager, I barely used social media and I never got into it, which is kind of crazy as a business person because it's so useful when you're trying to convert people and get. I probably should have used it a little bit more, but I was more interested in honing my individual skills and expertise as a salesperson. And anything that gets in the way of me being a better communicator and better at identifying and identifying problems for people and engaging with an empathetic conversation, understanding other people, anything that gets in the way of that, I try to avoid because that's really my bread and butter. That's where I'm going to get the most value out of what I provide people and what people are going to get out of what I provide to them value wise. And anything that gets in the way of that is just counterproductive. And so I talk to people all the time. I went and did an in-person presentation a couple of days ago, and it was actually my first time doing a full-on in-person presentation. I've done, oh my God, hundreds of virtual ones. And I went to go there and I was kind of nervous, which is new for me. I've never been nervous to talk in front of people, but I was like, this is my first time doing this. They all assumed that I had been doing this for years because they heard that I had 17 years of sales experience. So they're like, oh, you've done this a bunch. You know what you're doing. And I'm like, not like this, man. Like this is new, but I didn't say anything and I pulled it off and no one thought anything otherwise. So I was like, I guess I did a good job. But yeah, I see people, they're terrified. They're terrified to talk in front of people. I'm like, dude, that's like everything about being a person. It's everything about business. I don't care what your position is in your business. If you own a business, you're the owner, you should be able to talk to people, a lot of them, even if you're introverted, maybe even especially if you're introverted. So communication is the foundation, and sales and the sales skills. That's why I'm so like passionate about it when I teach on it. It's like the skills you develop in sales are immediately applicable to scaling your business. It's just different positions as you're growing, but it's all the same skill set. Negotiating on your own behalf, navigating strong personalities, uncovering, people's problems, troubleshooting, problem solving, empathy, uh, you name it. There's a bunch more. Overturning objections, like those all go into team development. It all goes into management. That all goes into hiring, firing, vetting people, sussing out who's full of shit or not, asking solid questions, having critical and uncomfortable conversations. That's all sales and that's all business development, right? They're synonymous. And so that's why I tell everyone to start with sales, and then you can get better at the other things that you do. Without it, if you can't communicate, if you can't convey the value of your business, then you can't sell anything to anyone. And without sales, you don't have a business, right? So that's always been my train of thought and why it's so important to me to talk about these things and to educate people.
That's so powerful. Like
Yeah,
that's so powerful. And
that's awesome.
sorry, Nate. I just
You're
wanted
good. You're good.
to hit this one. When you said you would do everything focusing on communication specifically, and anything else was just in the way, like, I always say when we ask our brains the right questions, we tend to get the right answers. And the question that I ask myself, because I'm an introvert by nature, like I can be an extrovert when I have to be, but I look at, am I communicating effectively, and is what I'm doing making me a better communicator? Because as an entrepreneur, as a business person, that's the key skill. That's it. If you don't have that, you're screwed. So Daniel, that's huge. Thank you.
Yeah, it's also the key skills as a person. Me being in business and me
100%.
being in sales has made me a better person. It's made me a better husband. It's made me a better father, right? Those things, the
I
ability to communicate and relate to other people is key, man. We're social creatures. We're
I
social
love that.
creatures.
I love that so much because I'm like, hey, do you want your relationships to be better? Do you want your health to be better? Do you want your wealth to be better? Here's one skill that you need. And you're right.
Communication, baby.
That skill. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but think about it, right? Like we think in stories. We think in stories, we speak in stories, we are a story. We have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And
Mhm.
that's layered into how we speak to each other. And so in order to adequately cohabitate with people in your business and people in your life socially and in your personal life, it's like you have to be able to do all of the things that comes with sales. You have to be, we're all selling to each other constantly. We're selling each other ideas. We're
Yep.
selling each other, I want to go to this restaurant tonight. I want to go here. I want this for our lives. I want to move to, right? If you can't adequately express yourself and how you feel about something, or understand why someone else is reacting the way that they are, and uncover why they feel
Yeah.
that way, right? That's everything. That's literally everything. If you
Yeah.
can't speak, if
Yeah.
you can't convey value, how do you run a business? So that's
Yeah.
why, yeah, sales
And
is it's the starting point.
the other piece too, we sell to ourselves. We're selling to ourselves. what are we going to do? What aren't we going to do? Like, am I going to do this uncomfortable thing? Am I not going to do this uncomfortable thing? What does doing this uncomfortable thing do for me at the end of the day? I love that.
Fantastic.
It's something too, Daniel, that I appreciate the way you said it as well, because I even I take my clients, like I'll take all the ownership of my client and everything, senior leadership, out on cold calls with me. And I intentionally take them on cold calls where I don't know the buyer or anything like that, because I want them to viscerally feel that uncomfortableness. And I also want them, I like to test them a little bit and see how they're able to react. Like I'll give you an example. A couple months ago, I took a client out, and when I'm in liquor stores or beer bars and stuff like that, there's no set meetings. If you have a set meeting, that owner operator, at one point, he could have the time scheduled for you. And then all of a sudden the toilet blows in the back. And literally, this is a story that happens. I walk in with my client, and we don't have a boardroom. We don't have a projector. We don't have suits on. And 5 minutes into my pitch, I'm in the bathroom. It's in the squatted position while he's plunging the toilet, and I'm pitching the next planograms for him. And that's the type of stuff that I try to show people, that in certain line of work, especially in sales and business development, when you're working with, in my line is owner operators and it's not chains or corporate, it is, every day is different. Every minute is different. And you have to situationally manage, and you got to know your shit, because you might not have a presentation or a PDF to go off of. You're just going on the fly, and you have a million distractions in front of you. Like there's other times, a common thing, 90% of my time, I'm selling somebody while they're working the register, checking out customers. So, you got 45 seconds of a pitch, pause, 45 seconds, pause, 45 seconds, pause, and all of a sudden my clients are like, oh, I understand why it takes so long sometimes to get, that's like, you have to see how everything is not a system that flows smoothly. Everything is disjointed, but also maintaining the patience and maintaining the appreciation that that person also has a job to do as well. And you need to be respectful and appreciative of the fact that they're even giving you any time at all. And I think that that's something that we, in the sales industry, we get excited, and sometimes we get a little bit of an entitlement syndrome when we try to get people's attention. And I like the way that you said, I like the way that you put it, where there's sometimes where I was brought up in this industry at 19 years old in the beer business. And one of the best phrases I was ever told right in the beginning was, right beer, right account. And I never understood it, because I was like, we just want to sell everything to everybody. You know what I mean? Everybody needs beer. But no, it's sometimes you have to understand the diagnosis. I always tell people, don't be just a pill pushing doctor, be an actual diagnosis doctor, where you actually understand what the problem is instead of just shoving shit down on their shelves, you know?
Yeah, it's so I equate it to art, right? Because I'm an artist, and
Yes,
so
yes,
when you're
yes.
drawing, when you're drawing a portrait, I'm a portrait artist. I love drawing people. I've, ironically enough, right, as a salesperson and as an extrovert, of course, I'm drawing people, right? And so I love capturing the essence of someone. And the biggest part about drawing someone and capturing likeness and the essence of a person, it's all of it starts in like the proportion stage, right? The composition. Like you spend most of your time laying out the strong foundations of how big is the eye in relationship to the nose, to the mouth, the distance between those things, right? You spend all that time before you do the details and all of the stuff that makes it look like a person. It's laying out all of the proportions to make sure that when you do put in those details, it's not off, it's not wonky, it's not going to come out like they have a little tiny eye up here and one big eye over here, right? You got to stay consistent. It's the same thing with sales, right? When I'm talking to people about closing the deal, so much of what I'm telling them about is, and I was trained on 5 steps to a conversation, right? Intro, short story, presentation, close, rehash. And so I tell everyone, you stay in step 2 the majority of the time. The qualifying portion is where all of the magic happens. And the longer you stay in there, delayed gratification, and the more you build up a relationship and the deeper the questions get, first off, you're going to identify their true core problem. Everyone struggles with that because they think they figured it out and they really didn't. And that takes empathy. And it takes some time and patience of getting used to the industry and getting used to talking to people. But mostly it's just taking the time to actually care about what the hell they're going through, strategic empathy of understanding their perspective. And sometimes, and this is the hard part, this is the thing that takes experience, is sometimes, maybe even more than sometimes, most of the time, I find when I'm talking to people, they don't even know what their core problem is. That's my job,
Mhm.
is to help them get there and to go, look, I know you think this is your problem, and I don't want to be too forward with you, but I don't think that's your real problem. Your real problem is this. And after talking to you for 30 minutes, I truly believe that if you did X, Y, and Z, it would solve the other three problems that you think are your problems right now, along with the one that you didn't even know about. And so that's really where it comes down to. And you're right too. The whole presentation and I'm coaching a young client of mine right now. He's a young whippersnapper. He's going out into the world trying to make a name for himself and all that stuff. And he's very green, very very green, very naive. But he's got the spark. He's got the determination. So I respect him for that. But so much of me talking to him is just like, dude, you didn't ask the question. You didn't identify the problem. You're skimming through really important stuff here. And so when you go to, try to sell them everything under the sun, you're selling them things they don't need because it doesn't solve any problem that they have. And of course they're saying no. It's like you didn't even talk to them. You didn't even really break it down what their problem is and get to the core of it. So yeah, it's so important. It's so important. And a lot of that, I think the younger generation is just so out of touch with genuine socialization and what that actually looks like. Like millennials, like the last generation that be home before the streetlights come on. I grew
Mhm.
up without technology. I lived out. I was basically feral. I lived outside. My mom had to come and drag me in the house, or she was at the doorstep screaming because I wasn't back before the streetlights came on. And I know it's kind of silly, but I feel like it's given me such an advantage over so many other people in my age and younger, and so many of them look at me and they're like, "Oh my God, you're like so great at this. Like, how did you?" Is this? I'm just talking to people, dude. Like, you're overcomplicating this, dude. Talk to people. Talk to people
even
where
the
they're
part
at.
even the part that you yeah even the part that you just said, like it's like meeting people where they're at. Take that for example. Like I used to chameleon everything, where I was like, I had to be like, you got to play this part and you got to wear this. Now I literally will, I have four different sets of clothes in here. I change my shirt and my clothes, not to manipulate anybody, but to meet them where they are. Like if I go somewhere where I know that guy always wears a t-shirt and shorts to his job every day and he's the buyer, I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts when I walk in the door. And if he's a flip-flop guy with a Tommy Bahama shirt on, that's what I'm wearing. Now, am I breaking from my personality? No, these are clothes I own and I wear as well. But also, it's a visual representation and connection that helps alleviate the conversation and breaks down the barrier of that adversity that people feel. And do I dress up like something I'm not? No, I don't do that. And that's the one thing where it is different. And that's where I just go with a neutral clothing. But it's one of those things where I even pay attention to that level of where it is. I call it the Gaga syndrome is what I call it, because Lady Gaga does like 12 rehearsal changes while she's 12 wardrobe changes during a set, so it's, you got to do what you got to do. At the same time, I also did in my younger whippersnapper days, I did do it in manipulation. Like I would wear a suit and tie at a country club and act like I belonged there when I really didn't. And I would do that in certain other situations. And now in the past couple of years, I've just approached it as I've been in this 21 years. When I walk into a room that's directed towards sales, I might not be the millionaire in the room, but I've seen it all and I've experienced every aspect of sales, so I know that I can have those conversations. So I walk in with a t-shirt on. And I walk in with a t-shirt on, not as disrespectful to anybody else in the room, but in the sense that I don't dress to who I want to be anymore. I dress to who I am. And
That's so good. I love that.
it's one of those things. I'll give a little credit for the confidence of it to, like, I'll give it to Mark Cuban on that one. I was a big Shark Tank fan, and Mark Cuban really did that. When he stayed to that aspect, and he's like, I wouldn't wear a suit in a room that I didn't need to. Now, do I wear one to a funeral or a wedding? Of course. You know what I mean?
Yep,
But
yeah.
I don't do that anymore, and it's not an arrogance or an ego thing. It's an authenticity piece. And I guess I go back to the young guy too, is like, I want more people to understand, and I try to talk to my own kids about this. A lot of people think of sales as like the sleazy thing. Sales is honestly one of the most resilient things, in the sense that you can start a business or you can start a career with no money. And there are so many people out there that need salespeople that that people don't realize. Like, I've been in business for 15 years. there's so many things that I haven't had to do, and the freedom that I've had in my life because I just called other people. Like, I literally live out of backpack. Like, I don't have office space. I don't have anything. And it's intentional because other people need my services, and I found a void. But I try to tell people sales it's not easy, but if you know what you're doing and you have a brain and you have the empathy that you're talking about, you can really make a living very flexibly and live that career that you want. And I think Clifford and I talk a lot about helping people start businesses and things like that. But I think also we need people to understand that there's a lot of things you don't need to go to the bank sometimes to start your own freedom. And you don't need to go to the bank, or you don't need an investor. You just need a couple clients paying a retainer, and you start grinding.
I did when I launched Sovereign Sales Agency, the end of last year. It's been almost exactly a year since I launched the company. I did 20 something thousand dollars in the first 2.5 months of business. I didn't do anything except I lived on networking events and
Yeah.
one-on-one calls, and I just hit the pavement, right? Hit the pavement, freaking, metaphysically knocking on doors, right? And I just talked to, I had like 1,000 one-on-ones in that 2 months. I just nonstop. I lived on one-on-ones, and I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn, book a call with me, let's have a conversation. I was on lunch clubs, I was on Alignable, I was on all of these different areas, and I was just everywhere. And I built a reputation for myself in a very short period of time where after a while, people just started referring people to me. Trade shows and stuff like that. The whole trade show is like, yo, you have a problem with sales? Go talk to Daniel. And the reason why I got back into sales out of everything, because I had a bad partnership dissolution and personal stuff in my life, and things were just going really, really wrong all at the same time. And I was like, I need to go back to something that is easy for me. Like, I already have the expertise. I don't have to figure anything out. I just go and do what I do best. And something that I know that is always going to be in demand. And that's why I'm in sales. It's a very difficult industry. It's not easy, but it is simple. And at the end of the day, the whole name of the game is, dude, just talk to people, just have conversations, and do it with intent, do it with purpose, and do it authentically, right? If you show up every day as your authentic self, and this is the other thing about sales I try to get people to understand as well. I can coach anyone in sales and they will get better at sales. There's no doubt about it. There's how much better is up to them, but everyone will get better from my coaching. I don't like to coach on anything specifically, and I'm trying to get rid of that. Like, there's all these, I know them. I know like Layer and R and all the different objection handling frameworks and qualification frameworks, like Bunt and all these acronyms and jargon. But when it really comes down to it, I don't like teaching on those things. How I like to coach is, again, meeting them where they're at, right? Because everyone has their own personality and their own style, and you can't replicate it. It's like everyone's a little snowflake, right? Everyone's got their little fingerprint. Everyone's different, which means you're going to sell differently from me, right? I'm very kind of larger than life, big personality, kind of boisterous, very direct. I'm very extroverted. I've been doing this for a long time. I trained, and ironically enough, and this is really tells you how things go in sales training and coaching and in the sales world. One of my best case studies, my best testimonials or use cases of my coaching was I coached this 19-year-old Pakistani girl, right? She barely spoke English. It was not her first language. She was mousy and she was adorable. And I was like, she was so unassuming. I never thought she'd do well. And she became my number one rep on the Verizon Fios campaign. She was the number one in the country. I won an award for it for my training and my teaching. And she went on to like break everyone's record, and it was amazing. And it just goes to show you, she sold completely different from me. She was not. She was like my exact opposite. She's a little girl from Pakistan, and I'm a grown man from America. Like, you couldn't be any more opposite, right? And no, she killed it. And so I try to tell everyone, I'm like, look, I can teach you all the proper ways to do things. I can teach you about Bant. I can teach you about Air. I can teach you about Layer. I can teach you about, the consultative approach to methodology for sales, the challenger approach to methodology of sales, all of those things. But when it really comes down to it, it's like, I just need you to understand the basics, man, the fundamentals. what is an objection and what's a rebuttal, right? How do you overturn that? Okay, here's some general ideas and things. It's almost always the same thing. It's time, it's money, it's, just not in the right position right now, or, I already have that, our contract isn't over until, those are really it. I can talk to my partner. It's like the five objections you're going to hear from everyone, right? So, we could sit here and get really technical, but it's really only one of those five. And once you learn how to overturn those, you might get some random ones every once in a while, but it's not going to hinder your ability to close deals. Same thing with, your approach, the same thing with your script or whatever, your qualifying questions, the same thing. It's all the same crap repeating itself over and over again. You have to figure out what works for you specifically. And that's where I think having a coach is so invaluable, because I can give you the real time information through my expertise and what I know of why someone isn't moving forward. If I can watch your recordings, if you're doing it like not in person but virtually, record everything and tell me, like send it to me. I'll watch them and I'll tell you exactly where the gaps in your pipeline are, exactly where the gaps in your conversation is, why they're saying no. It becomes very clear when you look at it. And I don't think enough people look back at their recordings. I record every call so I can see, what did I do? I love Read AI because it gives me all the scorecard and sentiment, and it breaks it down and summarizes like, why am I doing bad? Because it's on the sale. It's always the salesperson's fault. It may not be like the person said no because you did anything wrong, but it is your fault in any other case, right? If they were going to say yes and they said no, it's your fault. You didn't convey the value. You didn't ask the right questions or enough questions. It's on you. But ultimately, my point here is, make it work for you. What is your personality? What is your style? And then make sure that you go after people that makes sense for you, right? If you're kind of a mousy, introverted person, you're articulate and you're good at sales, but you're just not that, like, maybe don't do in person, or maybe don't do, the $1 million deals, right? Do something smaller. It's fine. And just do a higher volume, right? Meet them where they're at. And it's the same thing for the person. Do it for yourself. Meet you where you are and stop trying to, like, I'm going to do $1 million deal. It's like, dude, you haven't even done a $1,500 deal. Like, let's pump the brakes. Take a second, get good at selling, and then you can increase the amount once you're comfortable. Like for me, I'm at a stage in my career where it doesn't matter what the number is I'm selling. The amount means nothing to me, right? It's all the same conversation. It's the exact same conversation, whether it's $10, whether it's $10 million. And I've been in both of those conversations. They don't feel any different. I promise you. It's you who gets terrified. You're like, oh my God, $10 million on the line. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, nothing's going to happen. They're going to say no, and you're going to be disappointed, and the world will keep spinning.
I know we're closing out on time, but I appreciate what you just said, because I want everybody to understand that no matter whether you're right, the $1 million deal and the $150 deal, they're the same person. There's really just a couple types of people, and I'm not trying to oversimplify society, but everybody's the same. Just because they got expensive suits on, they got the same problems at home. They got the same problems. It's just at different scales, but it's the same core issue. Yeah.
Yeah, they're overweight, their health is struggling, their family doesn't like them, they're working too much, whatever, man. They have all the same problems, man. Really, they really do. And I've known, like, I've had like actual relationships with people from all walks of life. I've rubbed shoulders with millionaires, and I'll tell you right now, they're no different than anyone else. I've also used to, because I was an artist and I was doing all the podcast stuff. I was backstage at Hamilton with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I was hanging out smoking a cigarette with Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad, right? Like, and I'll tell you this, there's no difference. No one, toss that out the window. Starstruck, whatever, you're worried, my client is constantly talking to me about, like, they're so amazing. I'm worried that we don't come correct. He wanted me to on one of our calls, he wanted me to put on a suit because they were, very corporate-esque kind of people. I'm like, I'm not wearing a suit. I'm wearing my branded hat for Sovereign Sales Agency, as I always do, because I'm branding myself. And I'm gonna wear whatever, I'll wear a polo or something like that. Like, I'm pretty, I'm like business casual most of the time now. Not that I'm against a suit. I like wearing suits. I wore a suit for my presentation. It's just, it's not the right context. And back to your point, Nate, about authenticity. It's like, it's not really me. I'm a leather jacket kind of, sunglasses and hat. That's just kind of how I rock out, and people can appreciate that, and it shines through when everything I'm doing is authentically me. I'm not thinking about it too much, but when it's authentically me, you just get better replies from people. Responses are different. People respond to you a different way when you're being yourself without any trimmings. Like I'm not trying to put on anything. Like this is just me, genuinely 100%, for better or for worse. And sometimes it's a very vulnerable place to be because you're being yourself in a very vulnerable situation where you're talking about these situations and talking about your business. Maybe you're not where you want to be. You don't want to lie, but it gets difficult. But I'll tell you this: if you're authentically yourself all the time, it's so much easier because similar to never lying, if you never lie, you never have to remember anything, right? Because you're always telling the truth. It's the same thing with business. And I'm always authentically myself. I don't have to worry so much about like, damn, did I mess up? Did I do something wrong? No, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm being myself. And whatever that does, it does, but it's always going to work in your benefit in the long run because people will cue into that. And if there's one thing I could say about all of this, and this might be a good place to wrap up, confidence comes from, that's where confidence comes from. That's what confidence looks like. I am myself regardless of the situation. That's the person I want to be around.
I love that. I love that. Daniel, I would love to have you on again if you'd be open to it, my brother. It was an absolute pleasure. And I want to ask you, what would be the best way that people could connect with you?
LinkedIn, again, I'm back on there finally. It's been like
Nice.
4 months. I've been building other things, but you can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, the slug is sales dash leader. So whatever the linkedin.com/in/sales dash leader, that's me. I come up.
Awesome. Well, thank you
All
for
right.
being
Thank
on,
you,
my
Daniel.
brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get the rest of my team on here. I have a
Yeah.
CFO, a COO, and a CMO that would probably do you guys really a lot of justice on here. So I'll let them know
Awesome.
now that I've been on here and see if they want to jump on. So
Yeah.
I'll just share me a link to book the call again so that I have it.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much for your
Awesome.
time and your story, man. Really appreciate it.
My
Yeah,
brothers
guys, I
appreciate you
loved it.
guys. Audience appreciate you. And you all have an amazing, amazing day. Take care, guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye.